Welcome to My Healthy Mind. I'm Michael Hunter. One of the things you hear frequently from war veterans is that the bonds forged in combat are among the strongest, most enduring of any in life. The same can be said of wounds born of combat, wounds on the inside. Like most vets put it, nobody can understand it if they were not there, because there's no parallel experience. While most of us weren't there, and most of us cannot understand, most of us want to. We want to understand and we want to help. Today we're talking to Brian Gripentrog, a Persian Gulf War veteran. Having had physical and emotional damage, Brian gets it, and he has dedicated his post-military life to helping other veterans and the rest of us understand. Brian, welcome to My Healthy Mind.
Thank you for having me.
Can you please tell us where and when you served and what capacity?
Well, I served in the Persian Gulf, and I was in artillery. We're part of a gun team. I was fresh out of boot camp, fresh out of training, and got in the Marine Corps. And
was your job really combat at that time, or no?
At that time, combat is a very loose term.
Okay.
When we talk about combat, it's not like we see in the movies. It's a lot different than that. A lot of times when you get fired upon, you don't see a person in front of you. You see where it's coming from.
That's a good analogy. That it's not like you see in the movies, because
it's definitely,
immediately my mind went there when I hear combat. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that's not the case. It's very, very different.
It's different. What the movies don't show us is smells, sounds, especially when they were doing bombing raids. The ground would shake, and what would go through our young minds was, holy cow, I would not want to be on the receiving end of that. When we did enter into the war and started going into those areas that were bombed, the destruction, that it's overwhelming. Everybody had a job to do. I think because of the training and the mentality of the Marine Corps, there's a lot of anxiety. The anxiety wasn't so much to do my job right. The anxiety was, what are we going to face? And when we face it, how's it going to turn out? When I was in, and that was in the 90s, we kept the mask on, maybe like a facade, that we were strong Marines, emotionless, nothing bothered us. We adapt and we overcome everything. And so if someone were to seek help, even within a unit, their own buddies, there was some stigma that came with that. Like, okay, this guy must be weak. We're not sure if we go somewhere else, if we want to take him with us. So you didn't talk. Now things moving forward, and even at the start of the Afghanistan and Iraq wars, there was still a lot of stigma, and stigma. Even with the guys that maybe want to make careers, you definitely didn't want to go to see the chaplain or go see mental health, especially mental health, because you'd be considered combat ineffective. And in country, it's a very shaming. They take your weapon away. For some veterans, it makes them feel like they can't do the job anymore. So guys wouldn't say anything. And they would suck it up, adapt and overcome until they're home. They're out of the military a lot of times. As much as the military tries to do, it's a cultural thing. At least my standpoint is, if you have to start with changing the culture first, and that starts down within the lower ranks, and saying, it's okay for you guys to talk.
job was causing me so much stress.
I felt disconnected and frightened.
I felt so isolated.
I was beginning to feel trapped, depressed. I never expected that to happen to me.
We think nobody else feels the pain that we feel, but that is so untrue.
It's good to be able to talk about it.
I was able to seek help. I found it from Team Wellness.
It's a sense of freedom.
Team Wellness Center. You are not alone.
So, Brian, you've had a few transitions that you had to handle or go through. Very young, going into the military, going on a ship, getting to the Persian Gulf, and actually having to engage the enemy. Mm-hmm. And then you came back from the Gulf, but you were still in the military. And then eventually you came home.
Right.
What kind of long-range issues did you encounter when you came home, and what kind of symptoms were there for you?
I got injured while I was in the last 6 months of my military career was mostly spent in a hospital, and I discharged from Michigan. But during the time when I got out, I became very depressed, very confused, and I would look around and I would see friends and family who had been to college and had been working and started careers, and I felt like I just lost 4 years of my life, that I'm 4 years behind everybody, and I would actually get jealous and mad at family members and friends that would go to work, and I'm here self-loathing. I'm stuck in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. What can I do? I've always been an athletic person, an outdoors person. I didn't know where to go next, didn't know what to do next, and everybody around me didn't know how to deal with me. They would walk on eggshells because I either didn't want to talk or didn't even know what I wanted to talk about. I actually felt bad about being jealous because it wasn't their fault. I made the choices, I went in. It didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out, let's put it that way.
And so what was a typical day like for you during that period?
A typical day was a lot of isolation. I wouldn't come out of my room. A lot of times I would eat my dinners in my room. It's a lot of personal embarrassment of being in a wheelchair, that transition, and I didn't want people to see me like that. I've always had a very strong sense of self, a very confident person, and the Marine Corps really made me even more confident, and I really felt broken, and not just physically, but emotionally broken, and to the point where I was contemplating suicide. It was when I first got injured, I thought I was gonna die. I was actually prepared to, and then when I woke up off the life support and then got out of the hospital, I was actually kind of angry. And then I figured, I got to a point in my life like, maybe I need to just finish the job that the doctor screwed up and saved my life. One of the things that the Marine Corps really instilled in us to get us to do things that go against what we live here in the United States, the golden rule, is to dehumanize. And we're not the only country that does that. The other countries do that as well. So we dehumanize people to the point where that's not a human that we're taking, that is an enemy. I was still very much into that military mindset, and so the only emotion that you really were allowed to show in the military was anger and humor. So when I was at home in my own mind, the only emotion I was showing was anger, and that was more of, you know what, I'm gonna take this bridge and I'm gonna put myself on this island and leave me the heck alone.
And at that time, had you recognized that it was or could be post-traumatic stress disorder?
I have never heard that term before. I looked at life differently while I was in the Marine Corps. Didn't realize how much I looked at life differently until I was out of the Marine Corps and back into the civilian community. People didn't talk the same way, people didn't think the same way, and like I said, we were taught the golden rule: "Thou shalt not kill," and "Thou shalt, protect or honor your fellow man and your fellow woman." And in the military, they have a job to do, and we don't fight wars to just go out and wrestle. We fight wars to gain ground, and when you gain ground, people die, and it's not always military people that die, and that's stuff that we have to live as the ones who are in the ground fighting the wars.
What about your own self-value, your own self-worth? You have been programmed to dehumanize others. How did you feel about yourself?
Being in a wheelchair, I almost felt like it was punishment. It was like, God was telling me, you did something wrong. And I felt very alone, very scared, questioning my own faith. The God that I believe in, how could he let us do this to each other? I think it was after I was contemplating suicide, and then figuring, okay, I can't do this. I have to do something. I'm too young to do nothing. I still wanted to be part of society. I just didn't know where I fit in society. This is a lot of what our young veterans are going through, and this is where I try to help, and other veterans try to help veterans come home, as we always say. What I wanted to do was, I didn't want to go to counseling. I was afraid to open up this Pandora box that I felt I had, because I have never cried. Even when I got injured, I was stone-faced. I had that Marine Corps mentality where you adapt and you overcome and you just suck it up. But life doesn't work like that. You do adapt and overcome, but it's a process. And it's a long process, but it's a process that the longevity of the process is dependent on the person. And for me, I didn't want to go to counseling, so I went to school, and I said, what, I'm just going to get a clinical degree. I'm going to figure this out on my own. What I figured out was how to do counseling. I didn't figure anything out about myself. So if there's anybody out there that's in grad school right now, don't do what I did.
So life again at home was very different in the military, in that the very structure was different.
Exactly. So in the Marine Corps, you're told when to eat, you're told when to sleep, you're told when you can shower, you're told every aspect of your life is instructed, very structured. So when you get out of the military, you have all this freedom. I can decide for myself. I don't know how to think for myself right now. I don't have a gunnery sergeant or a platoon sergeant telling me where I need to be, what I need to do. And that was a hard transition, and that's part of the readjustment process that we talk about in the counseling world, that I had to experience. And what came along with that was, since I didn't have all that structure, when you're in the military and you have a lot of structure, you don't have a lot of time to think. And when I mean that, when you don't have a lot of time to think, you don't have a lot of time to get in your head. And then when, at the end of the day, and you're still with your buddies, you don't think anyways, you're hanging out with your buddies. We're not talking about that kind of stuff. It's that's when you learn how to numb yourself, and you do a lot of, the military's full of, one thing that was told to me when I entered the Marine Corps is, you're going to either become a gym rat, very religious, or an alcoholic, sometimes all three. And from what I witnessed, you dibble and dabble in all three of them. And then you pull back from some of them as well. And then when you get into you get out of the military and get to the civilian world, you kind of dibble and dabble with a lot of that stuff as well. But that's when some of the PTSD symptoms really surface, like the hypervigilance. When I was in the Marine Corps, I didn't really feel very hypervigilant because I usually hung out with my guys, and I still had that military mindset. They got my six. My six meaning they got my back, and I got their back. But when you're in a civilian world, you get. I can speak for myself. You get this. I got this feeling that, well, even though I know these people, I don't know how much they got my back because I was still thinking military-wise. Having my back meant that they're gonna keep me from being killed, and still thinking that I was in a dangerous place. And in the United States, depending on where you live, you're pretty safe. And what hypervigilance is, it's where we're over stimulated with. For some veterans, it's loud noises. Our five senses can really trigger things. The smell of garbage. For me, sometimes it was the smell of barbecue. It would make me sick to my stomach at first, like stuff cooking on a grill.
And is it because it related to something in the military?
Yes, it related to something in the military, and so when those triggers happen, you're no longer in Michigan. You're back into a place that doesn't feel safe anymore. So then, but you don't have your guys around you. So then you kind of crawl into your own place, and you kind of you're very watchful, and then you have this feeling that, well, I must be crazy, and that's. Again, that's part of the readjustment process. Something that I had to figure out, something I'm still figuring out, and something that I'm helping other veterans figure out. When I started seeing it change a little bit was after I've been counseling for a while and seeing veterans, and this was later in the 2000s where you started seeing some of the guys saying, I did go seek help, and it was helpful in the military. Not everybody has had that same experience. I think where a lot of guys said that's really helped them is when somebody that was a senior NCO or an officer that actually went. When you see somebody like that, that's a leader that is going to get help, that opens up the door for them.
Formally, how are you helping veterans today?
Formally, how I help veterans is, one, I talk from personal experience. I do a lot, we call it appropriate self-disclosure. I talk about some of my journey, and again, I say to them, but this is my journey. You look at the world differently, but this is the journey that I've been on, and kind of normalize their feelings, like this is normal. What I talk to them about when it comes to PTSD is I try to make it in such layman's terms as what PTSD is in a nutshell is some stuff that no person should ever have to see or ever have to do. And so they when they can wrap their brain around that, it normalizes it. Where part of the reason why I agreed to come on the show is to help bridge that gap with the community as well. So the community has done a really good job with understanding PTSD and the symptoms of PTSD, but where I think that the military and the veterans and the community need to come together and have a conversation is, okay, we know what PTSD is, but how do we all talk and not stigmatize? With my personal approach with veterans is I like to keep it real with them. And being a veteran myself, I can usually get somewhere quicker with a veteran than maybe a civilian counselor, because there's that belief system within the veterans, and I had the same belief system that nobody can understand me but another veteran. When I explain it to veterans like that, it's that concept that you have, I can understand you want somebody who speaks the same language, but or nobody can understand you and how you viewed what you've been through, because it's you.
And you said that you are a readjustment therapist.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that is?
Yeah, readjustment, part of the readjustment process is readjusting in all facets of your life. Readjusting back into society, readjusting back into your family. And along those same lines is the veterans are highlighted as part of the ones that need the help, the ones that need help with readjusting. And I think who gets lost in the shuffle a lot is the family. Because here you have a mother or a father or a boyfriend or a girlfriend that has been gone for a year. And they come back, they're different. You know, that's not my husband, that's not my wife anymore. And that whole year you've been gone, they've been, the family members left back, if you have kids, they've been mom and dad for a year, or they had to live their life and go on for a year. When you come home, you know, especially with a veteran, when you come home, you want to come home to what you left. And that's something that we help veterans readjust. That's part of the readjustment process, is you can still come home, but understand that just like life went on with you, life went on with your family members as well. They have a readjustment as well. They have to readjust to the changes that you've made in your life and what you came home with, and the changes that they have as well, adjusting to you being gone.
So Brian, as you are helping the veterans, what are you finding that they want?
Well, from my experience, what veterans really want is to be understood. Whatever that means to the veteran is to be understood that they've been through a lot. They may be very confused, but they want to be understood. They don't want to be stigmatized. And veterans really do want to come home. And when I say come home, I mean come home completely, reintegrate back into society. You know, and that takes a lot of conversation between everybody. And that's part of the process when they come see me. Is first thing I do is I start normalizing their feelings, and then we start setting some short-term and long-term goals. Let's think long-term, let's think 12 months and maybe even beyond. What would you like from that? And I tell them, when you're thinking about that, think in terms of something that's realistic, something that you can obtain, and something that we can measure. But a lot of times veterans, when they first start talking, they just want to talk. They just want to sit down and talk. They want to let things outside that they're saying to themselves in their brains, they want to say it out loud to a person that has not going to judge them, unconditional positive regard, that doesn't know them, doesn't have any preconceived notions, and just listen. And that's the one thing that I do offer veterans. I said, is you are the driver to change. I'm the A driver. And when you fall, I'll be there to pick you up, and we'll move forward. And we'll let the past lead us, but we won't live in the past, but learn from it.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Wellness Center has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan.
No one should ever have to feel so alone.
Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Despite what you've been through, you can overcome.
Team Wellness Center. You are not alone.
Brian, after all you've been through and all you've learned, what message would you like to leave for other veterans like yourself and anyone that's trying to help them?
Get out and do something. You know, don't wait for the world to come to you. You engage the world. As veterans, take everything that the military taught you, the good, bad, and the ugly, apply it. But a lot of it is on us to bridge that gap as well. We can't expect society to just welcome us with open arms if they don't understand. We have to talk. We have to be open. We have to step outside of veteran-only communities. Another piece of advice I would give to family members and friends is veterans don't want you to solve their problems. Matter of fact, you can't solve their problems. For a lot of them, they just want you to know that you're there. And for the veterans, you know, open yourself up to family and friends. Open yourself up to them being there. Allow them to be there. Don't get stuck in the thought that you have to tell them and explain every gory detail of what it is to be in combat. Most people don't want to know that. You know, we just want to know how to help. Open your arms, your heart, and your mind, body, and soul to them, and tell them how you feel. And hopefully we can have more conversations like this and other platforms, and the community and the veterans, we can come together and be one big happy family.
Thank you for watching today as we probe the invisible wounds of our veterans and how we help them heal. If you're interested in learning more about this topic or other mental health issues, please reach out to us on our website at myhealthymind.com, on Facebook at myhealthymind, or on Twitter. And we will see you next time on My Healthy Mind. Let's talk about it.